All right, if we're going live, I'm just gonna get.
Yep.
I'm gonna turn off my picture.
Cool. I'll probably do the same in a second once we're live again.
All right, if we're going live, I'm just gonna get.
All right, I think we are up. Yep. Which is good. I'm gonna let Alex know. Alex know. Yep. So just so you know, Gene, we are in fact live on YouTube.
Okay, Chris, thank you.
Gotcha. And nice catch on the PowerPoint. I hadn't even looked at it.
Okay. I got home late because I stopped and got some groceries on my way home, and then I opened it up, and I'm like, I'm not sure this is
Something
right.
seems to be missing.
Yeah. Oh. Hi, Trustee Salehi. Oops, you're muted.
Okay, it's better now.
I'm going to change your name on your profile from.
Thank you.
I saw you.
Already beat you to it.
Ah, gosh, geez.
Too slow, Gene. Way too slow.
How are you?
This is what I do. I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
I saw you joined a little bit earlier, and I said to Chris, do you know who this person is? iPhone, and then whatever it was. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's
But
my, I got the other iPad with the report, and then I got this iPad for the Zoom meeting, so.
Well, I didn't recognize it, so I just was on the lookout.
Yeah.
Make sure it wasn't somebody bombing our meeting.
I know, no. Hey, I hope the meeting doesn't go past my bedtime.
I know.
Just kidding. Am I the first one on?
You are. And we are live on YouTube, so just keep that in mind.
Sure, that's fine. You're up in Maine?
Oh, I wish. No, I'm home here in Massachusetts. I just got home from work a little while ago, so I decided to come home and do my minutes from home instead of at the office.
Sure.
So it'll be good.
I'm going to be coughing. I do not have COVID. I have a big allergy attack. So.
Oh, that's too bad. Hold on, it should be all done.
Oh, something with the oven's on.
I know I didn't turn it on.
Turn it off.
You can go ahead and eat, and I'll.
Right.
Maybe I'll wolf down some supper. I have 10 minutes. I can wolf down my supper, right?
That's right. You better go
do it and do it on camera, please.
One time when we were having a meeting and everybody was remote, I was hoping people wouldn't notice me. I was eating a little crackers. I was so hungry. Oh, I think that was a search committee meeting. It was one of those all-day meetings.
Do what you got to do, right? We will not start without you. I can guarantee you that.
That's good. That's right. All right. So
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
Mr. Queenan.
How are you?
Good evening.
It is. Chris, you're not on vacation? Last time we talked, you were on vacation.
I'm finally back from vacation. It was the worst vacation. It was miserable, humid, or pouring rain. I think we all had the worst July ever, right?
Well, why don't you do this? After this call, why don't you go on vacation again?
Can I hold you to that one? Can I say
Absolutely.
that Kevin Queenan has recommended that I go on vacation? Fantastic. I'm going to use that.
Absolutely. Hey, Paul, happy birthday. He's probably out eating cake. Oh, you're on mute.
How's that?
That's great. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm the
Hello,
same age.
Paul.
You're just a young guy compared to me.
That's okay. It's okay. Just keep having them. I love having birthdays.
Yeah, how was your month at the Cape?
It was good. Back and forth. You know how it is.
Not really.
Well, back and forth to Florida for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the winter months. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Hey, Lisa, how are you? Oh, you're on mute.
You'd think by now I'd be a little more savvy with this thing. I'm on mute half the time.
Hello,
How's it-
Lisa.
Hey, Al, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Nice to see you.
And here, hello, Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Lisa. Hey, Ally, how are you?
Doing good.
That's good.
Hello,
Dr. Thompson, how are you?
I'm good. For what, I guess you've all welcomed Lisa already to this call.
Well, I don't want to say this, but Lisa's old hat. She's been with us for a while.
I know those guys.
You know, those guys, people have been talking on campus when I've met with them. They're happy for you, Lisa. They're expecting so much. You have to live up to something.
I know I've had my text messages and emails. I've been very grateful and very humbled by all of them today. Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you about some of the things that they want you to do. So
A few of them have hit me up already.
how is everyone doing? I hope you've had a good summer and enjoying your time.
So we
Well,
hope that you had
I
it.
can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing at 7:30 on a Wednesday night.
No, I can't imagine anything other than being at Stockbridge at the Red Lion Inn.
Yes, that's true.
So, you know, I ran into Kevin this weekend when I was over there trying to discover the western part of the Commonwealth, and all of a sudden, who's there but Kevin and his wife?
I unfortunately had to follow her into a shop, which more to try to contain the damage than, enjoy the shopping, I can assure you.
Yeah, and so what was I doing? But
Yeah,
shopping.
you're just as bad. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. I just want to thank Bob. He was at our chairs meeting this afternoon, and people were so appreciative of him showing up and spending all of the time with the department chairs on our campus. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Bob, you're on mute.
Thank you for catching me, Kevin. To which I would say, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. It was actually an enjoyable experience. I enjoyed the dialogue. It was almost a conversation, a back and forth, and I look forward to more of those. And I think the chairs do as well.
Yeah, I
So
think
it was a treat for me to be able to do that.
well, I can tell you, they really appreciated the fact that you showed up and you listened to them, and that was such a wonderful testament to your support of this campus. So
Thank you. And one of the things I'll say this in my beginning remarks. One of the things that I look forward to this year is I know we all are committed to that, and that we're going to work toward that as a board. Welcome, Attorney Sullivan.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Hi, Dan.
Paul, it's good to see you. I've not seen you since June. I hope you've had a good summer.
We've had a good summer considering the weather. Other than that, it's been kind of quiet.
Okay.
all I can say is that Elizabeth has been working really hard on behalf of the universities and putting in so many hours. I just want to thank you for everything you've been doing. It's been, I know, tough for you.
Oh, thank you, Linda. My pleasure.
And I guess while I'm at it, I want to thank, forgive me for my use of first names, but I'm just more comfortable that I want to thank Kevin and Ali for the conversations that we had over the last couple of days. I appreciate that. So and Lisa McMahon, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Bob.
And good luck in your new role.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Chloe, you ready to start the academic year?
I am getting ready. We have students moving in tomorrow for our first years and transfers, so it's getting exciting down here.
So I should take it you're speaking to us from Westfield and not Grafton.
No, I am in Westfield. I'm actually in my cube in SGA right now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I just want to say I met with the student leadership on campus this week. I can't tell you how impressed I was with the students and all of the guys who showed up in those blue suits and ties. I have been talking about that everywhere I go. They were so impressive.
Yeah, they looked good yesterday.
Okay, don't leave us in suspense. What is a blue suit and tie? Tell me what that's about.
I mean, they were all dressed up and they were so professional. It's rare that I've seen a young person of that age in a suit and a tie. I even make comments to my staff who don't show up in blue suits and ties.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you send me 5 of them? I'll hire them tomorrow.
Chloe was just sworn in yesterday as trustee, so she's legitimate as of
Excellent.
yesterday.
Congratulations. Yay.
Thank you.
And
As
Kevin,
to illegitimate, right?
Kevin, I gather you've been very involved with President Thompson in outreach to the business community. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important.
You know, Kevin has been just such I would just say such a wonderful supporter. And I have met so many of the major business leaders at hospitals and at, you know, just the business community, because he has just taken the time to make the appointments and then show up with me. So I just can't say enough about how I've been so appreciative of his support on behalf of our campus. So thank you, Kevin.
Well, thank you, but you've made the effort to get out there and get the institution in the forefront of these people who can certainly make contributions in many different ways.
So, Jean, we're past 7:30, and it looks to me like we have a quorum.
We do.
And so I'd like to begin the meeting. Let people know that in addition to those of us who are present on Zoom, the meeting is being live streamed on the university's YouTube channel as well. Because we're meeting remotely, Jean, I would ask you to take a roll so that people who are observing know who is participating in this meeting.
Okay. So for trustee members, I will read off and let me know if you're here. Chair Robert Martin,
Yes, I am.
Vice Chair Ali Salehi,
Yes.
Secretary Lydia Martinez Alvarez,
Hello, everyone. I'm here.
Trustees Melissa Alvarado,
Here.
Paul Boudreau,
Present.
Teresa Jasmine,
Present.
Madeline Landau. I don't think she is going to be making it tonight. Kevin Queenan,
Here,
there. William Reichelt,
Present.
Chloe Sanfasong,
Here. Here. Did it go through?
I heard you, Chloe, but it looks like Jean may be frozen. I think we've hit all of the trustees except Trustee Williams, who is muted. If you could unmute momentarily, Gloria.
I'm present.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
And we, I believe, are also joined by President Thompson, Provost Mills, Vice President Taxar, Vice President Lopez, Lisa McMahon, who is moving into the role of directing the advancement division, Vice President Dan Foster, Tricia Oliver, and Attorney Elizabeth Sullivan. Have I missed anyone? Good. All right. No minutes to approve today, and I would like to be respectful of your time. So I'm going to try to move very quickly through some remarks of my own, invite President Thompson to give remarks, and then we will get to the meat of the heart of our meeting. And I will frame it for you when we get to that point. I'm very excited, very positive and very optimistic as we bring this year to a start. I know you share with me the commitment we have to Westfield State University's success, and most especially to the success of President Thompson. As I've had the opportunity to talk to some of you and to talk to different groups, including folks on the Presidential Transition Committee, I'm excited at the extent to which that commitment is shared. And there's a high level of buy-in. So I look forward to working with you as my colleagues on the board, and I know you look forward to working with the university community. We reached out to you, I think, about a week or so ago about a faculty staff appreciation event. I want to extend a special plaudit and a special thanks to Kevin Queenan, whose idea it was to have a faculty staff appreciation. I am very heartened by the commitment that you have made as a group and as individuals to attend that event. At last count, Jean Beal reported to me that I think 9 of the 11 trustees were able to make a definite commitment. And I think it very possible that the other 2 will be able to join us as well. The fact that you have professional lives outside of Westfield State, unlike me at this point, I know that takes a little bit of a commitment and sacrifice. So thank you for making it. And your participation in that sends a really important signal that's noticed by the campus community. So I'm grateful for your involvement. I think we have pretty much firmed up the date of September 10th from 1:30 to approximately 3:30 or 4. And yes, Tricia, good. And I look forward to being with you, and I look forward to interacting with members of the campus community. And I know over the course of the year, there are going to be lots of other opportunities, both formal and informal, for us to interact with members of the campus community. I know that requires some effort. And again, I recognize you folks have professional and personal lives outside of Westfield. But as opportunities present themselves for events in which you're interested, I hope you'll be able to take advantage of them. And I will, when I have the opportunity, try to do some coaxing on my part to get you to participate. I want to thank Provost Mills and the department chairs for inviting me to their meeting. President Thompson already made mention of that. It meant a lot to me. I really enjoyed it. And I was very pleased by the response that the department chairs had. I mean, they showed a willingness to engage, and they showed a shared commitment that I think we all have to the university's success. Some quick comments about upcoming trustee meetings. We are planning a meeting in September for September 15th. This is not one of our, quote, formal or official meetings. Normally, we've been meeting in October, December, February, April, and June. But it seemed appropriate to meet in September. And the focus of that September meeting, we will not have committee meetings. The focus of that September meeting is for the board to hear from President Thompson about her goals and priorities for the year. So I'd like to establish a line or a connection between how we're starting the year out and how, when we get to June and we look back on how the university has performed, we have something to compare it to. So most of the meeting will be hearing from President Thompson about the direction she wants to set for herself and for the university over the course of this year. I've also extended the opportunity, and she has taken me up on it, for her cabinet to also present their goals and priorities. So we're going to hear at that meeting from each of the divisional vice presidents or leaders. The other thing I'd like to do with you in September is talk about the format of our board meetings going forward. In June, at our last board meeting, we had some discussion about ways in which we might structure the trustee meetings. And I particularly remember Trustee Martinez Alvarez's comment about ways in which we might approach the meetings and what we might do differently. I've given a lot of thought to that. I want to bring a proposal back to you for September, have a discussion with you about what format we might have going forward. And it's certainly on the table that we can continue the format we've had. Nothing is written in stone, but I've tried to incorporate the feedback I heard in June and put together a proposal of what we might do going forward. Having said that, we also have a meeting in October 13. That board meeting is going to look like our prior board meetings. We'll have one day in which we have committee meetings, starting probably at 8:30 and concluding with a full board meeting in the afternoon. The reason for having the October meeting is to make sure we've had the opportunity to review and respond to the auditor's report. Since that is due to the Board of Higher Ed by, I think, October 15th. And Vice President Taxer and his staff and the auditors will be working furiously to have the report ready for October 13th for the board's review. After the September and October meetings, nothing is written in stone in terms of what our meetings are going to look like and when they're going to happen. And we'll spend part of the September meeting looking at that. Those are my remarks, President Thompson. I wanted you to have the opportunity to make remarks at our first meeting as our university's president. You're muted.
You know, that's the thing that we were always saying now, you're muted. So thank you. Chair Martin and members of the Board of Trustees, thank you for your leadership and support of the university and your commitment to our university's continued commitment and improvement. Since arriving, I have learned so much from all of you and from those of you who I've had the privilege of talking to. I feel so privileged at the meetings and the interactions. And I'm using this as part of my listening tour. I've had the pleasure of and benefit of hearing insights from so many people, both on campus and off campus. What I've learned and what I'm hearing is something that we can do in order to foster more respectful relationships and building partnerships to advance the university's mission and the university's value to the Pioneer Valley. In September, I will provide you with more information on my vision and operational priorities for the academic year. But I just want to simply mention a couple of the things I'm thinking about. My visionary goals include ways that we can be more innovative in our teaching and looking at excellence in the way we teach, looking at more ways that we can be more involved and engaged with building partnerships with the community. And then I have this vision of making our university a premier regional university where our university is connected to this entire region of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. My operational priorities are informed by our strategic goals with enrollment management, resources that we can garner, the student experience and student success, and improving the culture on our campus. I just wanted to mention these, and I will provide you with a more complete framework of what I'm looking at creating and developing as part of my goals on September 15th when we meet. But today, we are focused on the well thought out recommendations of the UAC committee to restructure the institution's academic affairs area and its college structure. As a reminder of those who have been here longer than I have been, the university moved to a structure of 4 colleges in the fall of 2018, transitioning 25 academic departments to 3 colleges and establishing a graduate and continuing education unit as our 4th college. This put Westfield State University in alignment with peer institutions aimed to better support the success of our students through the deans of each college. After 3 years in the UAC committee analysis, a preliminary reorganization of academic affairs is recommended to create a central administrative structure to align employees and student support and to achieve a more financially sustainable solution as we grow our enrollment. This process of rethinking the college structure could result in a move to a two-college structure or a school structure. The UAC recommendation contends that the reorganization could increase budgeting and scheduling efficiencies, foster better collaboration, student support, and improve retention and graduation rates. Plans for the ongoing review of the college structure outlined by the UAC committee will be shared by Provost Julene Mills this evening and will be followed up by a more extensive analysis of the budgetary impact at the September board meeting. So I just wanted to say this is a way that we can create a temporary solution as we move to become much more efficient as our enrollment increases and we can align our program model to react to the employment needs of our region and to increase our enrollment in the future. So I want to turn it back over to you, Chair Martin, so that Provost Mills can give her report on her recommendations of an improved strategy for our campus.
Thank you, President Thompson. So just let me frame this very briefly. When we sent out the agenda at that time, we had envisioned asking the board to take formal action. In discussion with President Thompson and Provost Mills, we came to the realization that we need to do some informational presentation first. It occurred to me, and I think right now I may be the one exception to the board, but that the rest of the board, which brings a diverse set of experiences to the board, most of the board has not spent their professional lives around academic structures. You were students, you're familiar with academic departments via your own professors and majors, but the notion of schools or colleges, what deans do, what associate deans do, why colleges structure themselves and or universities, why they structure themselves in terms of colleges or schools, isn't necessarily obvious or apparent or well understood. So it made sense to take a step back and to look at where we were organizationally. What's the process that brought us to this point right now in terms of developing the plan? What does the plan look like? How is it different from what we have now? What is it intended to accomplish? And does it fit within the financial parameters that the university has to operate? That last piece, particularly, is an ongoing project that President Thompson and her team are in the process of working out now and developing the costings and identifying what the expected savings are. But it'd be premature to say we have a complete handle on that. And when President Thompson said they'll be bringing a more detailed analysis back to the September meeting, that's the idea. Having said that, Provost Mills has put together a presentation. Unless you feel differently, Provost Mills, what I'd like to do is give you the opportunity for some continuity in your presentation. So I'd ask my colleagues, unless you want to be interrupted, I'd ask my colleagues if they have pen and paper handy as questions occur to you, to make a note of those, to write them down, and we will come back to them at the end of Provost Mills' presentation. And I've asked her to try to do this presentation in approximately 30 to 45 minutes. And Julene, I hope I can hold you to that. But the floor is yours.
Thank you, Trustee Martin. I'll try my very best to stick to the 30 minutes you gave me, correct? Or was that 60? Good evening, everybody. Today, we're going to talk through, I think, or method of operating over the past year has been to engage in really informational session first, where we talk through what's on the table, allow an opportunity to ask questions. And then we get not necessarily into the weeds, but into the full decision-making process. You were given the UAC report that went to, this was the subgroup report. It came to the full UAC group and then on to the president, and is now, in essence, in your hands, primarily from the standpoint that the board bylaws speak of structure. Anything that has to do with structure should be looked at by the board before we go any further. And that is to, in essence, establish job descriptions, look further into the finances, etc. So we thought it best at this point to engage in a discussion. What I have here is a PowerPoint. So Chris, if you could bring up the PowerPoint for me, and we will go through the details. So this recommendation in the UAC set was the first recommendation, which in essence is reimagining instructional delivery and the support of our students, academic affairs itself, and the current college structure. So that's the title of the presentation. The other ones I will talk about in at the September 15th. We'll probably have some time to really give an update as to how UAC is doing and how far we are along with the other recommendations. We've made some strides in many areas, but today we'll focus in on recommendation 1. Next slide for me, please. In greater detail, the recommendation itself, I'll just overview that very quickly, is saying that we should align the administrative central structure, that is what I always refer to as the reporting structure of the academic division, to align it with the faculty, librarian, and staff and student support, to really take a deep dive as to how we're structured to enable the best support for our 4 constituents: faculty who teach, the librarians and the staff who support, and of course, at the heart of the institution are our students. And so are we really doing a good job of providing robust service? The second part of that is the college structure. The college structure reports into the central administrative structure. And so the recommendation was in the spring, which is spring of 2021, to engage in a robust process to look at the recommendation itself and to ask, how can we become more financially sustainable? To give a little bit of background in this regard, prior to the college structure, all academic departments reported in to academic affairs, that is the central office. We then broke into the 4 college structure, which I'll go into details a little later on about, and talk through as well. The UAC recommendation, in essence, said, think about a school structure or a 2-college maximum structure. And the estimated cost savings from this should be around 460 to 1.75. A range was provided. Next slide, please. So the question is, what exactly is a college structure? And why do we need a college structure? College structures are, in essence, the way in which academics organize in higher ed. The word college and school are oftentimes used synonymous. Some institutions use school to be a smaller subset within a college, but invariably, the idea is to increase efficiencies in terms of how we budget and how we schedule. Within that college structure, you should be able to see similarities in resource usage and, in essence, be able to craft better budgets, schedule classes better, and there is some oversight of how we are scheduling. Most importantly, colleges and schools are able to bring out excellence in disciplines and excellence in how we create interdisciplinary work and programs. It does build collaboration among faculty and students. It gets the students really engaged with a group of faculty building longer term relationships. And of course, what proceeds from that is increased retention, persistence, graduation rates, which is what we're really going for. It enables us to really become more responsive to student needs through focused recruitment, fundraising, curriculum review, and development. Speaking as the former Dean of the College of Education, Health, and Human Services, it gives you a handle of what is it that the students like about their academic experience at Westfield, what is not working for them. On the other side of that, what are the challenges that faculty face in providing instruction and services? And our role is to really help in that regard to make sure that the experiences are good on both sides. Next slide, please. So in the second phase of the UAC work, 3 approaches were used to examine the recommendation. One is campus efficiency surveys. We had focus groups, and we did a higher ed landscape assessment, including our sister institutions. Next slide. What we came away with, 381 members of the campus community responded, and they identified the college structure, CGCE, or administrative structure in academic affairs, as well as some administrative processes and the technologies that we're using as challenges for us. Greater details were provided in focus groups with about 80 participants who helped us to understand why the college structure was challenging for faculty and staff and students as well. Next slide. Just a reminder, you might recall some of these graphs that we presented previously from the survey that we did. Are you aware of other redundancies in services outside your unit or department at Westfield? And you'll notice the college structure, CGCE, staffing, and deans are among the top 5. Next slide, please. Consistent with that, based on your own observations, are there any inefficiencies in services outside your unit or department at Westfield that we should be aware of? Again, deans, administrative processes, inefficiencies, staffing, etc. Next slide, please. What should be done differently? And of course, the top 3: staffing, administrative structure, college structure. So in essence, it behooved us to really begin to take a closer look at what's happening and to hear what is the challenge or the issues there. Next slide, please. So what I want to point out here is in having focus groups with faculty and staff as well within those areas, what was brought up was we had these 4 deans or in the colleges, but we also kept the central deans as well. And so we increased the number of deans between the central administrative office and the college structure as well. At the same time, enrollments were coming down. So that was one of the key points that was brought up consistently. Also, to the structure itself appeared very top heavy given the size, but the deans themselves were not necessarily able to execute all their responsibilities because of the number of departments, the number of students that were in some colleges. So how do we create a better balance in this regard? Next slide. So to frame the rest of our conversation, I think it's always important to have a graph. So this is, in essence, the current structure that we've been operating under since 2018. There's a provost and the assistant to the provost. There's an interim dean of undergrad studies. And under that person is the executive director of the Center for Student Success and the registrar, who also interact considerably with the provost. The interim dean of faculty has the Director of Grants and the Director of International Programs as well. Then we have the Dean of the College of Education, Health and Human Services, the Associate Dean of Education, who's responsible primarily for accreditation in that regard, just for education programs. And there's a staff associate who deals with internships or field practicum for education students. There's a Dean of Academic Information Services, the Dean of the College of Graduate and Continuing Education, and the Assistant Dean of Student Success. There's the Interim Dean of the College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, a Dean for Math and Science, an Associate Dean of Institutional Research and Assessment, and an Associate Dean of Budget and Fiscal Planning. The Associate Dean of Budget and Fiscal Planning, based on the retirement of that individual, was collapsed into the Director of Budget, and you'll see that play out a little later on. But in essence, there are about 20 positions in the central office, and sometimes what might be confusing is there's a central office and then there's the college deans. As I said before, the college deans report into the central office. So about 20 positions at about 3.38 million is what we're looking at for this structure. Next slide. So the question is, how can we make this process better? How can we create a structure that is in tandem with our enrollment, is more efficient, but provides us with the opportunity for growth? Because we're at that juncture where I believe Westville is primed for growth. We are ready to start to grow, and we need to create structures that are nimble, that allow us to get out, what I call getting out the gate on developing new programs, being able to grow in different spaces and to innovate to service the Pioneer Valley really well. And so, of course, as a community, we've followed different processes to get to the end. This is no different from the other UAC recommendations, where we put in a process of how to go ahead to take a deeper look at this. So next slide, Chris, thank you. So we created subgroups primarily made up of the department chairs and some UAC members. Around 30 individuals were involved in this process. So there's the academic mission. What does each department do? And how do we look to align those? So we had a subgroup that looked at that. The second piece of that was to collect more data. So we looked at data collection. Professor Camilleri, Professor Hayes, and Professor Rausch were really instrumental in that process of collecting data from the faculty as to what they would like to see and where they feel their alignment lay with each other. There was another group that looked at the current job description of the college deans and what the school dean job description could be, what things we needed to move out, and what things were really critical for that role of being in the school dean position. The next thing is we were initially, if you look at the original UAC report, it talked about a school administrator. And in talking with both legal and the statewide MSCA, it was determined that if you want to use that school administrator title, then that would need to be impact bargain. But there were other suggestions made, and the faculty involved in the process got a chance to in essence, determine what would be best for the institution and how we would structure and function. I think most important in this process is a real good examination of the duties of academic affairs itself. What does academic affairs do? And cataloging all the things that are done in the office and understanding what is not being done, what slipped through the cracks, what do we need to tighten up on? And in essence, if we're looking to grow, what support do we need to put in place? Next slide, please. So the survey that we conducted, 138 faculty responded to that survey, and they rated academic department alignment on 4 areas: the specialization of the faculty, their ability to collaborate with each other, how they can share resources, and how we can build graduate programming. Those were the 4 areas that were deemed very critical. In assessing the day-to-day duties of academic affairs, the central office, there are about 140 unique tasks that are performed by the central office across 30 categories. What are some of these? Those include, of course, the tenure and promotion evaluation process, events management. There is the awarding of deans, dean's awards, etc., dean's list. There is, in essence, the processing of sabbaticals. There is the processing of travel. There's the awarding of grants and the management of grants. There's the evaluation of budgets. So those are just some examples of what happens in academic affairs. Following the crafting of the initial report, Jim Cox from Rubin and Rudman took a look at it to see how we were doing. Were we in alignment with practice of the institution, and is what we're doing appropriate? We also had conversations with the MSCA Executive Council, the president, as well as the statewide MSCA president in that regard. Next slide, please. So coming out of this process, I think this is where it's really, really important. What we found is, one, we should create a structure that really supports faculty, students, and staff in a timely manner. The second is, if you notice throughout, we haven't talked about accreditation and assessment of learning. These are critical pieces of our operation. We need to consistently evaluate learning, and we need to maintain our accreditation. And so we need to create a structure that enables that. So we're not, in essence, every 10 years coming around, okay, we need to do this, but maintaining consistent focus on all our accreditation and creating a structure that enables that. The other piece of this is, we know that we have enrollment challenges. How can academic affairs better support the recruitment and the retention of students? And so how do we create a structure that does that? More importantly, in addition to all of those, how do we make sure that we're providing space for program development and innovation? That is, all departments get an opportunity to innovate. The campus itself gets an opportunity to participate in this innovation. And how do we build greater inclusiveness and community? Because we know that we can have great strategies, but culture is what is critically important for our success. So how can we create a structure that does that? Of course, the biggest markets are continuing education and graduate education. How do we create a structure that supports that? Not only that, if we find that our enrollments are still going down, can we create a structure that is nimble? That is, can it expand and contract as we need it to? Next slide, please. And so, having said all of that, here is the structure that we are proposing. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, quick reminder, we had 4 colleges, arts, humanities, and social sciences, with 12 departments and 2 programs. We have the College of Education, Health, and Human Services. And I'll go back a little bit. Arts, humanities, and social sciences, about 100 faculty members in that school. The College of Education, Health, and Human Services, about 115 faculty members, and taking care of about 2/3 of the student population. We have the grad and continuing ed, wherein the other colleges also provide support for faculty in their discipline areas. And then we have the College of Math and Sciences with 6 departments and about 75 faculty. And so in essence, it's not a balanced and easy to manage structure. In each college is supported by 1 administrative assistant, each college dean. So we had to think about, how do we create true support for these departments in a different way? Next slide, please. So coming from the faculty, the 4 schools, and we ran a factor analysis and to see the loadings of departments. and then equated, how could we equate it across the board equally? So School A, as you see on here, has about 7 departments, about 31% of the faculty, or 32% of the faculty, 25% of the majors, and is responsible for about 33% of the student credit hour generation. We also looked at how the CGC arm is incorporated in here to provide some support. So when we tie it all together, day and CGC, that school will generate about 31% of the student credit hour. That school would be the Education, Arts, and Humanities. That's the recommended name based on the departments that are in that school. The second school would have about 6 departments, about 21% of the faculty will be responsible for about 28% of the majors, and generates about 25% of the student credit hour. That school, initial title, Criminology, Justice, and Public Policy. With this creation, and here's where innovation comes in, we would create the first school in the state system that is focused on public policy. So that's also something that, as we go through, the faculty were thinking about as well. So criminal justice, ethnic and gender studies, political science, sociology, languages, philosophy moved up to School A, and then psychology. Next slide, please. School C is our health and natural sciences school, 7 departments, about 30% of the faculty, 24% of the majors, 18% of the student credit hour generation. Biology, chemical and physical sciences, environmental sciences, social work, health sciences, sports medicine, and human performance and nursing would be in that school. School D has about 6 departments, about 18% of the faculty, 23% of the majors, and 23% of the student credit hour generation. And this is the business, math, and computational science proposed title. Another proposed title is business and the School of Business and Data Analytics. So in essence, those are the 4 schools that are being proposed. Next slide, please. So to wrap it up here, we would have 4 associate deans at a lower salary than before. And under here, we would have the different departments fairly even across the board, making it more manageable for the individuals. Next slide, please. So the next step is, how does this build up into the academic affairs structure itself? So you have the provost. The UAC report recommended an associate provost. And then there would be an assistant to the provost, the senior budget specialist that I talked about before. We would have the 4 associate deans, a director of faculty affairs that will be focused primarily on the day-to-day operations of what the faculty needs. So previously, if a faculty member put in a travel request, that faculty member's travel request went to the department chair, it went to the college dean, it was signed off on, and then it came into academic affairs. What we're proposing here is the director of faculty affairs. Once it's signed off by the department chair, it comes right into the academic affairs central office for processing and approval. In tandem with that, we're looking at technology that can ease the process as well, wherein over the next year, we will pilot test Interfolio that can become a repository that helps faculty submit their travel. If they go to the same conference every year, they don't have to fill out a new set of paperwork. They can generate that. They can also have a space for keeping all their reappointment paperwork. It tracks their workload so they know what's happening, and it tells them when they're coming up for tenure and promotion. So we're working on that now. There's the director of library, grants and sponsored programs. In the current structure, the director of grants is really faculty grants. the institution has not focused on a university-wide grant development program. And with identifying and specifically having a director of grants and sponsored programs that is university-wide, it will allow us to really begin to focus on how to bring additional funding in through grants. The university registrar will combine both sides of CGC and DAY under one roof. I will point out here, the systems do remain separate in that regard. So we have clear accounting of both continuing ed, day, and graduate programming. We'll continue to have the executive director for the Center of Student Success. And the newest change in here is a dean of academic assessment, so that we can continue to meet our NETCHI accreditation consistently by having someone in charge of looking at assessment, managing the day-to-day of how we take care of how we assess our learning outcomes, et cetera, and a director of accreditation who is specifically focused on our NETCHI accreditation and the standards and ensuring that we are collecting the data and meeting the standards. At first blush, this is about 15 positions at about 2.57. So this is where we're looking at how to pull it together in a more robust way. Next slide, please. So this one is also key. The proposed structure is interim. What that means is it is a holding pattern as we work with the departments to figure out how we want to grow. It's really important to what I call getting the weeds with the departments on what they would like to do. The curriculum we know is owned by the faculty, and it's important to be able to innovate with the faculty knowledge, the faculty experience, and to build our programs around them. And so this, as you look at the school structure, it aligns departments together. There could be outreach definitely across schools. The titles are not necessarily set in stone, but this gives us an opportunity to really focus and determine how we want to move forward. So for example, if we collectively as an institution decide this year, we're going to focus on building a school of business, for example, we will take the time to understand what that means, how we grow enrollments there, how are programs aligned, and how do we really build in each of those departments and support them. Then we move to the next one. Let's say health sciences, the health and natural sciences. What do we need in terms of lab space? What do we need in terms of the direction of the lab environment is moving more into technology-based instruction? And can we get into, again, the weeds, work with the faculty on how we need to build out our labs, grow enrollments, and figure out a way forward that is really progressive. When you have a lot of departments, we have 25 departments. And so for us to grow, we have to prioritize, not that one is less than the other, but prioritize the way in which we move forward. So a holding place for a school structure allows us to operate structurally, provide the services that we need, and then allow President Thompson and academic affairs to take each one and work with the units and start to, in essence, grow. This will also help us to build our academic master plan that aligns with our mission and our vision. And most importantly for us is to grow enrollments as well. So next slide. So of course, there's always the finance. And when it comes to the finance, I'll turn it over to the gentleman who deals with that. So VP Taskar, I'm going to turn the slide over to you for your comments.
Thank you, Julene. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Yeah, we're just providing a high-level overview at this point in time until we complete our assessment of the financial impact of the combination of the college and school structure for the central office. So in terms of context, I think most trustees know that we have built into the budget a $2 million estimated savings on the UAC initiatives to date. Part of that, the 749,000, which is built into the FY22 budget already, relates to savings that you've seen proposed in terms of position consolidation and reshuffling of positions in different ways. Those dollars are already hardwired into our budget as savings. We are still working on the analysis and validation of the central office structure. We're pretty close, but we're not there yet. We expect to finish that work in about a week. And from there, we will be prepared to come back and provide whatever level of information is helpful to the board to quantify or validate these proposed savings. The last bullet speaks to the remaining dollars that have been integrated into the FY22 budget, that there are additional savings beyond the 749. So that if you add those two numbers together, we would be at $2 million. So the bottom line to this is that based on what you've seen presented by the provost today, the combination of the college structure revision and the central office restructuring at this point in time yields about $750,000. The remaining 1.2 million in the budget does not overlap with anything you've heard about or talked about with the provost today. So our goal at this point is to move to a validated summary of not these numbers, but any additional costs or expenses or savings that have not yet been worked through in terms of the details and the validation. So that's kind of the 40,000 foot overview today. And again, we expect to come back with a final validation of these impacts, financial impacts at the next meeting.
Thank you, VP Taskar. Next slide, please. And so our last slide is really laying out her steps. So today we have the structure proposal. We'll go through a process of refinement. And that process of refinement also, asks the question, who's interested in serving as associate dean for the colleges, for the schools? The second piece of that is, as President Thompson and I work together, we're recognizing that we have some really great talent on campus. And we have some individuals that have worked longstanding in the central office. And it may be a better idea to create, for example, an assistant provost who's also an associate dean, who is able to work with both of us to build out or structure faster and provide some support in that way. And so we'll take the time to go through that, to, in essence, we did a call for nominations and we had 25 unique nominations. And so we have to, overall, there were 35 nominations. There were a couple individuals that received overwhelming nominations, but we have some real robust individuals that I think will do a great job in the role. And so the next step is, of course, to confirm that they are interested in that and to work with the faculty in those schools to give them a sense of how we want to nominate and appoint these individuals. So we want some time to really work through that, then validate the model, and of course, move into implementation. I personally believe that the most important step is continued assessment. And that means as we work to build out each area, as we work on our academic master plan, is this a good holding spot for departments and what they want to do? Is this really best? And we will work with them and talk with them and tweak as we need to, because ultimately the academic affairs central office, the school structure, and the individuals there provide support to the faculty, the librarians, and the students who are at the heart of what we do. And so this process will enable us to keep consistent tabs on that. And so this is the end of the presentation, and I'll take questions.
Provost Mills, just a question. You said that you received 35 nominations. Were any of those self-nominations?
3. There were 3 self-nominations. The rest were from individuals nominating people.
So have you figured out or discussed the process for determining how you're going to go about selecting?
So that's our next step. Part of it is experience within the discipline. Of course, they come from a discipline within the school. That is one of the requirements. They must be tenured because tenure is important to be able to do the evaluations. And in essence, be able to work well with others. I think the other things I always believe we can work with individuals to learn, to grow, but it's important to be able to work well with faculty and students to resolve conflict in a real professional way, and to create a culture for each department where they feel heard. I think very important for me, even in this role, is that I take the time to hear from each department, to work with each department, and to understand where they want to go so that we're not in misalignment. Those are the critical things that I think makes a dean successful.
And the second part of that, would there be any HR engagement in terms of when it comes down to final selection? And how would that impact any of the negotiated contracts, if so?
So we go through the process of, we create the job descriptions. Academic affairs in the past we've done interims, as you saw. We've had interim deans in different roles, and that's one approach that we can use. Another approach is we can also appoint for like a 1-year period. And then that also serves as a time where we're also evaluating what we're doing. I think what's most important that I would say for us at this stage, and ironically, someone would say, but this is the process that brought you to Westville State. We're in a time of enrollment challenge, and I think we need to stabilize our enrollment challenges first before we go and hire on the outside. And to make sure that we're bringing individuals in who are leaving. Primarily, if you're going to hire a dean, they're going to come in an untenured role primarily, and as such, eventually you negotiate going back to faculty, etc. But I do think we need to, in essence, organize correctly, start to grow enrollments, and then look to the outside to fill some of those roles. We do have individuals who are capable and can do the work as well. So that will help us. At the end of the day, we can always say, okay, remember I talked about being nimble. That is, let's say our enrollments keep going down. We're moving from a college to a school structure. We can then move down a little further and we can have program area chairs. That becomes a little bit more challenging, yes, but it also saves some on our budget. And so it's enable us to do exactly that. Or on the flip side, let's say we have spurts of growth in enrollment, and we had a department or a school that had under 500 students, and now we're able to bring that up to 1,500. Then you definitely need not an associate dean, but a dean with some strong support under there. So it allows us time to really think through what we're doing, where we want to go, and how we're doing it. I think that's our strength, is to use the staff and the faculty that we have to our best advantage, who work really well and are committed to the university, get to a point where we are doing well on our enrollments, and then focus in on how we want to do our longer term structure.
That's great. I think the committee has put a lot of thought into the initial draft. So that sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So all of you have experience leading organizations or playing significant roles in organizations. That's not necessarily academic, but you know organizations. And I think one skill, probably the most important skill trustees have or need to have is asking good questions. So I'm counting on you folks to do that. And where you have concerns or need to know more, I don't want to put people on the spot tonight. So if you have questions later on, I'm sure you can communicate with Provost Mills, but I hope if there are things that are top of mind now, I hope people will feel comfortable to ask those.
Bob, if I may.
Please, Ali. Yes.
Hey, Dr. Provost Mills, thank you very much for the very informative presentation. And our hats off again for the millionth time for the work that you guys have done yourself and your committee in a very thoughtful and collaborative and thorough way. But if I remember Dr. Saigo, the one thing that he always challenged us was to ask some difficult questions, and just to make sure that we have thought through these things thoroughly, so we don't go back 4 years from now and say that, hey, we got to go back from the school structure to college structures. Because if I remember correctly, although I wasn't around on the board, but we spent a lot of time and money and resources in changing the structure to the college structure. Now, 3-4 years later, we are changing it back to the school structures. And I know we have the accreditation coming through. Is this going to create conflicts? Is that going to create confusion? Is that going to make that work harder? I'm going to have a bunch of questions, a bunch of comments, so just hear me out, please. So that's one thing. I thought we did the change to the college structure was to help the growth that we were expecting. Things didn't work out. Now, how is this change going to help us with retention, with graduation rate increases, with fundraising? That's a question for me that really needs to be answered. I am so glad that Vice President Taxar has validated the $749,000. And I think we all agreement. We got to make sure that all stakeholders, from the academic affairs to the president's office, to the finance, and everyone are on the same page on this, that 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road, we are not questioning the decisions that we're going to make either on September 15th or sometimes after that. And then are we putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse without having the academic master plan of doing this change right now? That's another question that has come to mind. And the last thing that I have was, is it prudent to nominate or ask for nominations for a position that hasn't been approved yet? So I leave it at that.
So we can start, Trustee Saleh, with the first one is before we went from a college structure, we're going from a college structure to a school structure, or a school structure to college structure and then back again. When we started first, before the college structure, all departments reported into academic affairs, the central office. And if you think about, in essence, 23 departments reporting directly into the provost. And what that means is it doesn't allow the institution to innovate. It doesn't allow the institution to do what it wants to do in terms of program growth, because the provost is in essence strictly focused on the day-to-day. And part of the role of the provost is to help with innovation, to help with growth. The second piece of that is the provost is then pretty much overwhelmed with evaluations. That becomes the job of that office, because You have everyone coming in. And so the institution moved to the college structure, in essence, moved the work into the 3 colleges without necessarily the robust support. So we moved in essence from when you put the dean structure in, most institutions that are developing a college structure will take them one by one and build them out so that you're able to be robust. So for example, if we had my college of education alone could be a college by itself, given the volume of work. Nursing itself could perhaps be by itself if you want to build it out. And then you have an associate dean who's handling research, who's looking at different aspects. And so part of the challenge is when you build the structure, in order to grow enrollments, we have to create the ability to do that as well as manage the day-to-day. Moving into the school structure with the enrollments coming down, then we have to also enable us to do both while at the same time being nimble. How do we innovate? Because innovation is the critical piece. How does NECHI feel about that? This is exactly what they would like us to do. In our planning standard, responsiveness is very critical. If an institution recognizes that it has challenges with enrollment, it has challenges financially, then it needs to create a path forward for change. This is where we get A's. If we keep the structure and we're still coming down and we haven't made change, that is when our creditors say to us, wait a minute now, what are you doing in this instance? And so we're saying to ourselves, look, we recognize we have an issue and we're going to innovate to fix our issues ourselves. And for me, I don't know, but I like the A+. And the A+ means that we are trying to really change and recognize our challenges. Recognizing that indeed change is difficult. And of course, there's always, am I making the right decision? In this instance, are we making the right decision? And how do we know that? We know that because when we look at the way in which the department chairs put forward a vote, their vote was either a school structure. There were no votes for the college structure. It was either a school structure or go back to in essence, what is referred to as the flat structure, all departments reporting into academic affairs. And we have to recognize that the faculty is, along with the students, the heart of our institution. And the faculty saying, this is not working for us in order to do what we need to do. That is our day-to-day operation, as well as do the things that we're asking for, help with enrollment, help with innovation. And I think we want to hear that as well, that the campus community, in essence, or faculty, some faculty do like the college structure, but we had quite a bit of feedback that says this is not working for us. And we have to make a decision. We're going to pour more money in it to get it to work right, or we're going to really rethink what we're doing and really make it more cohesive, save ourselves some money, and figure out how we're going to become more effective. So I think, I'll stop there if you want me to kind of dig deeper into other things.
No, thank you.
Kevin Queenan. Kevin, you're muted, so unmute before you start.
I think maybe I should just stay muted and talk. Would that be a good idea?
No.
First of all, Provost Mills, thank you for the presentation, informative, and I think very beneficial. Would you mind sharing that with the board? Could we have copies of that?
Yes. Thank you, Kevin. I was going to ask. Jean, we can do that tomorrow?
Well, whenever, at the earliest convenience. I want to go back to something Bob said, and then I want to piggyback on the reason I'd like the proposal, the presentation. Bob clearly articulated that most of us are not involved in education and have really never been involved to the level that we're involved in now in the college structure discussions. So, and to some extent, I think I personally feel a little uncomfortable doing that because I don't have the skill set. And and quite honestly, the bandwidth relative to being a trustee that I think, this is for the professionals to work on and to come up with the solution, and then to come back to us as a board with all of the data to support the decisions that you people make. That being said, I want to just go back to what Trustee Salehi said, and that is making sure that everybody is on the same page, and that whether it be the provost office, whether it be the faculty, whether it be the students, whether it be the president, everybody has to be on the same page. So what I'd like to do is, at least my approach to this is, when we ultimately vote on this in the future, whether it be on the 15th of September or sometime thereafter, I'd like to contact you because I have a number of questions that are specific to the presentation that you made. I don't want to take any time tonight to go over that because they're specific to my interest in helping me determine my thought process. But I think from my perspective, the most critical aspect in analyzing any proposed plan or presentation is the continuous assessments, not only on how it's working with faculty, staff, president, and whatever, but also the financial implications, the financial measurements, the financial benchmarks that will be set up, whether they be for the past 3 years, and then how we're going to look at it moving forward, and what the rhythm is, and what we're going to measure, and how we're going to measure. Those are the types of things that I think we need to see relative to the effectiveness of the program. So I think there's been some significant clarification of where it's been over the last 2 or 3 months. I think where we are gives us more light on where you're going, or where the campus thought process is in the process. But more importantly, we need that financial validation. We need those benchmarks to measure. And I know I need a number of clarifications. I saw associate deans all the way across on one slide, and then the last was a dean. Well, I don't quite understand why everybody's a dean and now associate deans. Maybe it's just money, but I have a lot of questions that I think I'd like to take offline. But thank you in general for the presentation. Very effective, informative, and I look forward to further discussions and further clarifications of at least my concerns. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and as well, thank you, Ali. I'd just like to add an observation or a comment. Because I had the opportunity to serve as a provost. And at the time that I did serve as a provost, I served in a flat structure where I had 24 academic departments reporting directly into me, as well as a fairly solid handful of administrative departments. In terms of hiring, in terms of evaluating, in terms of faculty development, I did a pretty good job. In terms of looking out to the future, in terms of working with departments, in terms of program development, in terms of setting up programs for student retention, my own grade of my own performance was not so much. It's hard in today's university to have a flat structure. And so when President Torresia created the 3 colleges, I was 100% behind it because it puts that support closer to the faculty, which is essentially what deans do. In terms of where we are now, my own perspective is, call it colleges, call it schools, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Either way, it's an administrative organization by which you're grouping departments. Where this is different, and I think it's different in a significant way, aside from the fact that there are 4 as opposed to 3, I think there is a logical rhyme and reason to the way they grouped the departments. They did that based on data analysis. So I think there is more community of interest. And although it is not perfect by a long shot, if you look across each of those 4 departments, you'll see more comparability in terms of number of faculty and number of students. It's a more balanced load for each dean. As well, if you look at what's in the central office, you see deans or people that are responsible for budgeting, for assessment, for accreditation, for student success. Those are the kinds of positions that, along with the colleges, I think are going to advance the university. And I think that the theme that you heard from Provost Mills is, can we create a structure which enables us to advance, not just manage, but to advance the university? I think what I'd like to do, if you'll allow me, is turn to you, President Thompson, and I don't want to pin you down, but I think one of the things that I'm interested in, and the board needs to know as well, and that is, you feel like with this kind of a structure or a variant of it, that you have the opportunity to move the university forward, that you have that flexibility, whether it's this structure or adapting this structure. Do you feel that you have the ability to do that?
Before the president talks, I just have a question of clarification, something Kevin said. Are we voting on this tonight? Is that the expectation, or are we just, because I saw the motion in the paperwork that we received, and so I just want to be clear, because
yes,
I'm with Kevin in terms of trying to vote without all the questions being answered. So I just wanted to be clear with everyone if we are expected to vote tonight or not.
And the answer is, we spoke to this at the very beginning of the meeting, and I think it was just before you joined us, Lydia. I'm not asking people to vote. We recognize that before we got to that point, we needed to do some presenting and educating.
Okay, so the motion in our paperwork is not going to go on tonight.
We're not going to deal with that.
Okay, perfect. Because back to Kevin's point, I have a lot of questions, but I'd like to take them offline with Dr. Mills and whoever else. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here today. I just want to say I've gone through reorganization of at the last university where I was. We went through a whole process of redesigning all of our colleges and our university structure to make it more compatible with the number of students, the number of faculty, and the number of disciplines in each area, so that it was easy to manage and it was easy to figure out a way for movement forward. And one of the questions that Trustee Salades just talked about was the master plan. I just wanted to say that I am really in support of the model moving forward, because it more evenly aligns the number of faculty and disciplines under each school structure, whether it's called a school or a college. It varies from university to university, but we are a small university, and so we need to figure out a way for growth. The areas that I have been listening and talking to both the business community or the industry around Westfield and the Pioneer Valley, my conversations I've had so far with people on campus points to a few areas where there is an opportunity for us to really excel. And those areas are in the healthcare sector, the business sector, higher, looking at education, especially urban education, and the creative arts. So if you look at the way the university faculty have talked about how they want to align themselves, it allows us to look at strategic growth opportunities in the future. And I'm looking at this structure that or Provost Mills just presented as a more fluid model that would allow us to grow and to change as we have new program growth and new opportunities for enrollment expansion. I've talked to many healthcare professionals already, both in the eastern part of the Commonwealth as well as the West. There's such a need for healthcare professionals, and I am talking specifically about growing multiple areas of healthcare. It's not just nursing and physician assistants and people who are providers, but in all areas of the healthcare sector, there is an opportunity for us to excel. The same thing as I talk to the people involved in our education department. I've talked to many people already, and there's a huge need for us to be engaged with the industry and to figure out a way that we have an opportunity to grow. So I'm looking at a strategic direction for us to begin to engage with people who will hire and who will invest in our university. I've talked to many community college presidents and looking at a way that we can also look at a pathway or a method for us to grow our enrollment. So I just want to, and I've talked to the department chairs. The department chairs are so invested in this model. They were engaged for the last year. They are supportive of the direction of the university. And in order for us to have a healthy direction moving forward, we have to listen and we have to support their vision of where they want the university to grow and go. And I am really supportive of looking at this as a stepwise process, to contract and to look at where we are, and then to strategically grow our university in a direction where there's opportunity and where people in the community will invest in us. So that's my assessment. Jolene has done a yeoman's job of organizing the faculty and staff on our campus to talk and to listen and to move forward. There's been a lot of worry on our campus about enrollment decline, and there's a lot of fear on our campus about the future. And they have made this decision to organize themselves in this direction. And if we work strategically with the schools, I think there's a smooth pathway for us to move forward. And so I just want to thank you, Chair Martin, for giving me the opportunity to share my perspective. I see this as a way for us to step back and then to move forward.
Thank you. So I think Trustee Salehi was right on in quoting President Saigo. I agree with it 100%. Good trustee asks good questions and hard questions. And I guess I would turn to you, Provost Mills. It's clear that a number of my colleagues want to follow up with you offline in terms of addressing issues. I assume you're amenable to that.
As always, Trustee Martin, I'm always happy to sit with and talk with any of the trustees. Trustee Queenan, as always, I'm happy for us to talk it through and to answer any questions that you may have at any time. I think it's important, and I like tough questions because tough questions make us know that we're going in the right direction and we're going there together. And I think that, we did that last year. And I see this as no different in how we move forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know my colleagues will recognize that you have a job to do in addition to responding to our questions. But I'm confident that though the folks here will not be bashful in asking those questions. And I will feel better, and I think the board will feel better if we've had the opportunity to ask those questions, to be comfortable with what's there, to understand to what extent it's malleable and how it can be adaptable. I would like, Ali. Please.
Just one last, I apologize, just one last.
No, go right ahead.
I think that, I think I've made these comments a couple of times before. It's the faculty and the staff that makes a university and a president a success. There's no question about that. And our number one mission and our number one responsibility is to our students. We got to make sure that whatever we do that serves the needs of our students, present and future. So that's the comment that I wanted to make.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair
Lydia,
Martin?
yeah.
Now, I second what Ali just said, and so I really would like to hear Chloe's voice when we come back, because I'd like to hear what the student government is thinking and what they're saying about all this, and what is the direct benefit to the students, and in the end, how is it going to affect student achievement, because that's what it's all about. And so I really, Chloe, hate to put you on the spot, but I would love to hear what you and your classmates think.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely excellent, Chloe. And unless you feel like you need to, I'm not going to put you on the spot now. But I do think your perspective is important. And I know from talking with President Thompson that she has spent some time talking with students about both general concerns as well as these proposals. So if you're comfortable, would you be okay addressing that at our September meeting, or would you like to speak now?
I do have some now, but I can definitely get some more opinions and formulate a better response in person.
Okay, all right, super. I began by saying I wanted to be respectful of your time, and we're just about to hit an hour and a half. And I thank you so much, Julene, for the presentation. I mean, not only was there a lot of work in the presentation, but we all know a lot of work led up to the presentation. And one of the things that we can brag on is that all of this did not just emanate from your head. That it was a process that involved a lot of people, and on balance, when a lot of people are involved, generally the result is better. So I'm hopeful for that. I forgot as I began this meeting, I wanted to just make a special acknowledgement to Chloe and Teresa Jasmine and to Will Reichelt. We saw Teresa briefly at our June meeting, but this is really the first meeting that all three of them are at officially. And it's a pleasure to have you on board. And as I said before, I'm looking forward to working with you and in fact, all of you on the board. Julene and Jean, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation, we can get out to trustees tomorrow. And for those of you who wish offline to connect with Julene, I suspect you know how to reach her. Again, recognizing she has a job to do. And Julene, at some point, you and I should put our heads together. If there are certain themes that are coming out of those conversations you have with individual trustees, we can excerpt those points and share them with the rest of the board.
I think that works. What I think we can do is, Trustee Martin, I can reach out to all trustees to see if they would like some time to talk, and then we can get it on the schedule. I think that might be the best approach.
Wonderful, terrific. Well, I think we are at a good stopping point. So let us.
Chair Martin?
Yes.
Lisa McMahon, did I see that you had your hand up at one point?
She was applauding. Terrific.
I saw it quickly. I couldn't tell. I'll
okay.
get that presentation out. I'll add it to Board Pack tonight and also email it for everybody.
Very, very good. And for those of us who might be joining us via the YouTube stream, thank you for dialing in. And if questions occur to you, feel free to reach out to us as a board. via Gene, or feel free to reach out to Provost Mills. And with that, thank you all. Be safe. Wear masks when you're indoors. I hope you're all vaccinated, and I look forward to seeing you on September 15th.
So a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Thanks for catching me, Lydia, because I was probably about to leave without doing that. Since we're remote, we need to do that by roll call.
Who, did I hear a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Okay, roll call vote to adjourn. Trustee Alvarado,
Yes.
trustee Boudreau,
Yes.
trustee Jasmine,
Yes.
trustee Martinez Alvarez,
Yes.
trustee Queenan,
Yes.
trustee Solehi,
Yes.
trustee Sampson,
Yes.
trustee Williams,
Yes.
and trustee Martin.
And yes,
Okay, motion passes.
thank you all again for your participation tonight.
Good night,
And
everyone.
We'll
Night.
see each other on the.
Thank you.
on the
Have a good
15th.
school opening.
Thank you.
Take care.
Night.